I had to take it off the loop because I didn't want it to run consecutively like 4 more times. I was like, I got to have my finger on there.
Can we stop for we've decided over the course of time to do some more recorded episodes to get more guests into the mix, and we still haven't quite figured it out.
Nah,
because I watched you like hit the start and then forget. Maybe you didn't forget, but then you waited to hit record, and then I was like, "Are we going? What's going on?"
I hit play, then I hit record.
We're here. It's for exposure. It's your weekend independent wrestling podcast on Love Wrestling. We bring the heat. We bring that fire.
Yes.
What's up, Blair?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I feel like I just saw you 2 days ago.
All right.
Yes. So we're pre-recording this. So
what has happened
in 2 days? I've been dummying watching Abbott Elementary. Great show. That's all I've done is watch Abbott Elementary.
I have not yet started that.
Past 2 days is all I've watched.
I got yelled at earlier I need to watch The Office. Apparently, it's the greatest show of all time.
And Love is Blind.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. So you haven't watched The Office?
That is fair. No.
Oh, wow.
Nope.
Today's episode.
I don't watch a lot. Sure took a turn. Yeah. So why don't we go to some positive stuff here? Let's just get right into it.
We have a guest. You'll never upset
a two-time guest.
Yes.
Not many people can say they've been a two-time guest on For Exposure.
Is this our first ever two-time guest?
Maybe. I'd have to look back into the annals of the For Exposure lore.
Should we just bring them on right now? Like, let's waste no time.
Listen, let's not waste no time. Let's get this going.
Okay. So I'll hit their intro and then we'll start talking. Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Hello. That's so neat. I get my own little introduction. Oh,
that's right. We're bougie around these parts.
Right? That's some like high class stuff right there.
So welcome back.
No, thank you. Let's just pretend I'm the first ever two-time because it sounds cooler. And then maybe we can dispute that later. Maybe. I mean, I might legitimately be. So hey.
I think you are. So I mean,
that's awesome. Well, thank you.
Give her a proper introduction, Blair, and then we'll figure this out.
Well, we have one of my favorites. Former IWS Women's Champion, has been absolutely crushing it everywhere she goes. None other than Katrina Creed. Katrina, how are you doing?
Oh, well, thank you so much for that introduction. That's actually super touching. I'm doing really great. How are you?
I'm good. I had to make sure that I just hammered that introduction because you bullied me last time we talked for the LPW show. So I was like, I got to make sure I give her a good intro.
Yeah, but now for IWS, I'm a good guy, so I'm not going to bully you anymore. You didn't need to do that this time. But if ever you have me on again, and I'm a bad guy, then I don't know.
Different story.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the non like pop-ins, and if you factor out Boris, who comes on every month, I believe you might be the first two-time guest we've ever had on For Exposure. Wow. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. That. Yeah.
Now the Office. Have you seen it?
I have. So I was actually going to bring up that point. If I didn't forget, which I did. So I'm glad you brought it up. I have watched it. You haven't watched it at all?
Okay. I watch. Now here's how this goes every time. Ready? Watch what Blair's going to say. I saw the first season. I didn't vibe out the gate. Let me guess, Blair. You got to go with season 2. You got to keep going. It gets better, right?
You do.
He's right.
See, that's what everybody's.
Yeah. And so actually,
I just have not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, actually, it took me a while to watch it too. For that reason, because I watched the first season like one or two times and I just didn't get past it. I'm like, this kind of like, it's okay. It's not great. It's all right. I don't understand what all the rage is. And then once I got past it, then it started clicking. It becomes a lot better. So I agree.
Yeah. So you get past the first season, you will enjoy it. Maybe even like half of season 2, you know, like you just
now I got to get through half of season 2. It's like the Star Wars thing all over again.
Star Wars isn't my jam, so I don't know anything like that.
What's the Star Wars thing?
Well, just everybody told, because there was for the longest time of my life, like I'm 38, so for like 36 years of my life, I did not watch any Star Wars movies at all. And
what?
everybody bullied me into watching them, and I did a segment on my other show where I'd watch one a week and then give like a 5-minute review of it, and I had to give up after like 2 or 3 because it was just like, this is not my thing. Like so I didn't understand it. It was draining on me. I was just like, I don't get it. Everybody's like, you got to keep going. You'll get it after like the 6th one. There's 15 of these things.
Yeah, it's what's kind of crazy? You guys have been popping out of nowhere because you're like the 3rd or 4th person who has told me that in the past few months. And like up until that point, everyone I knew like ever had watched Star Wars. And now all of a sudden, all of you guys are just popping up and you haven't watched it before. It's like absurd. No,
it's because we're finally starting to come out of the woodwork as non-Star, because you get bullied for not watching it like mercilessly. So now you're just like, all right, now it's 2025. Like, you do what you want. Like, so I'm going to come out with this. I've always been adamant that I've not watched it. So I take the bullying in stride.
It might be that. Maybe it's just we can't bully people anymore. So now people feel comfortable coming out. But I have to ask,
Sure.
Which movies did you start with?
The oldest ones.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. And you still didn't like it starting from the oldest ones?
No, it didn't. I just didn't. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it.
I actually saw them in
order. It didn't make sense.
Oh, like I get it in order because the newer ones that are like the older ones, the ones that came out more recently are kind of a bit weaker. So if you had started on those, I would get it more. But the older ones, you didn't like those either. Damn. Okay. I mean, hey, to each their own. I don't get it, but fair enough.
Not my bag. See. So for a person like me, if we're going to sit here and you're going to tell me that you've got to watch it in a certain order or start with this and do this and make, then I'm already kind of out, because I'm just like, why can't I just put it in and watch it? Why do I have to start with the old one, pop in this new one, figure this one out? There's prequels here. There's double sequels here. I just, I just go, okay. But no, I just
context.
Yeah,
his
sister and him were like really into each other for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Her sister was a witch.
What?
I just try to pop you on every show, so that's all I got. Okay, we'll get away from the TV talk right away. Are you watching anything right now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I don't usually watch too much TV. I don't have that much time. I've had a bit more downtime recently because, as I was mentioning before, I was supposed to be in the States and I had to postpone that by a bit. So I had to say no to a few bookings. So I'm actually chilling a bit for once. And they're coming out. It's not an adaptation. I think it's like a sequel or something. I'm not quite sure, to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I love. So I started just hitting those. I'm on I'm halfway through season 2 already. I fucking love that show. Buffy is just the GOAT.
You've watched it before though.
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
My cat's named Willow after Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the character Willow. So yeah, I have watched it before, but it's been 7 or 8 years. And dude, that show is so funny and so good. Amazing. I love it. What about you?
I started watching that when season 5 came out.
Okay, yeah.
Season 5, season 6. And that's when you would go, they would release shows on DVD still, and you'd be so hyped up. So I backtracked and I rewatched it from the beginning. I love that show. It was so good.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
I still got to watch Angel though.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that either. I'm not like Angel's okay as a character, but like I'm all about Buffy. I do need to give Angel a chance though, like I never have. But yeah, I actually only got into Buffy the Vampire Slayer like way later, even though it was kind of during my time. I was like a kid when it came out. So maybe it wasn't really directed towards me, but I only got into it like probably in 2017 or something. Like an episode came on and I'm like, this is actually pretty funny. And then I just went to the first season, first episode, and I was hooked from there. But yeah.
Okay. I'll ask
I've
one
never
more
seen
question,
it.
though.
Shocker.
Oh, of course. You have. Who's your least favorite character on there?
Oh man.
Jeff, the corner store guy.
Yeah, Jeff. Are we talking like main characters or
Let's do
like
main characters?
Sorry, main characters, yeah.
Main characters, yeah.
I'd say it's been a while. Like I haven't gotten into the later seasons and later characters, so I don't have a refresher on that. But I remember Anya kind of annoyed me a bit. And Xander too. Like I love Xander. I love Xander sometimes. And then there's other times where he says and does shit, and I'm like, that is pretty fucked. not into that.
Yes, okay.
And Spike too, to some extent. Like I like Spike to an extent, but there's some shit he does where I'm like, that's like not fucking okay.
Yeah, dude, that's just creepy.
Yeah, and like all the girls are into Spike and Angel too to an extent, but they're all about like Spike and Buffy's romance, and I'm like, this is pretty fucking unhealthy. Like we should not be celebrating this. It's like pretty bad. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. Yeah, just been watching Abbott Elementary, and I need to find like a new series to watch. I just finished watching Parenthood because I have a love for Lauren Graham, so I'm like, I got to keep this going. So I watched Parenthood. That was okay, but I need something like to really get in there now. So
who's Lauren Graham again?
She was in Gilmore Girls.
Right, she's the mom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Dude.
Huh?
What was that, Pluggo?
That's a tough watch. It's a hard show.
Gilmore Girls
to watch. It's intense. No, I've never seen Gilmore Girls either.
No.
Oh damn! I've seen episodes. But...
I watch wrestling, and I watch every day. Come hell or high water, I fall asleep to How I Met Your Mother. So that's my Seinfeld, How I Met Your Mother. I watch those. I watch wrestling, and then really that's like it. I'll put on movies. I don't watch new movies. I only watch movies I've seen 100 times. I'm just a creature of habit. I will try some new stuff, but my attention span sometimes gets to me. And I also, the problem I have is like when I start something, I have to be involved in it, or if I'm like doing something on my phone and I start a new series, like, what are you doing? Just put some background noise on. And I have kids and they take over my TVs all the time as well.
That's fair. And then there's probably choices.
We could keep talking. I'm a creature of habit. I don't know. I need to come up with something new, but that's
how
sometimes.
How was your trip out to Alberta this past year? I know that was a big one for you. Got to face off with Zoe Sager, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was honestly. Oh, he's fucking on you.
Okay.
It was honestly awesome. Like
Blair.
Oh, I'm not getting involved in this, even though I'm kind of in the middle of you guys. Do I got to ref this right now? I know. Honestly though, it was great. Like the travel itself was a bit intense because like I was sick and I had like a 3-day weekend. So it's like I had a show in Montreal and then I had to go out to Alberta and Edmonton and then I had to come back to Cambridge, which is like right outside of Toronto, like one day after the other. And I was like already sick and I was not like sleeping properly. I was sleeping like 2-3 hours between each like night. And I have like sleep apnea. So it's like I couldn't even use my machine because like I was congested. So it was just like I was just fucked. And so by the time I got to like Alberta, like I was pretty out of it. But so that was like kind of fucky, but like, dude, the people at Love Pro are all so awesome and so warm and welcoming. So it was super awesome to finally get to meet like certain people like Spencer, who I've seen on a screen for the longest time. And so to meet him in person, I was like, oh, holy shit. And to wrestle Zoe, man, like Zoe, that match is still one of my favorites that I've had. I like, she's someone that I hold in such high regard. Because she has such a great mind for wrestling, like in terms of just ideas, in terms of like transitional stuff, like sequencing stuff. Like I just spit it out an idea, and she'd have ideas, like really creative and interesting ideas of how to get from like one thing to another, and how like moves could mesh well together in ways that I've not really seen before. So that was really interesting. And something I reflected on a bit later, too, is that she's someone who I really admire as well, because she really tries to elevate both people. And it's not something I recognized right away, but it's something I thought about more recently when I was thinking about the match. I don't think people do it on purpose, obviously. It's just people are comfortable with their moves and what they can do. And it's easier to think of what you can and can't do yourself. But she has such an interesting mind when it comes to wrestling and an approach, and such a deep knowledge, like that she's able to like take what I can do and like what she can do, and spit out ideas to elevate both of us. So it was just a really great experience, honestly, to be able to wrestle her. I felt like I learned so much. She gave me some new ideas of stuff that I tried there for the first time. Just it was really awesome. I had such a great time. Like for real, it was great. I was so happy meeting her, and I think she's great.
I love.
Now that you gave us the sweet answer, give us the real answer. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually,
I love that.
Actually,
I love that we're getting more, you know, like wrestlers from Eastern Canada getting bookings in Western Canada, and vice versa, where you're seeing like Zoe heading out to Ontario and Quebec, and like Tara Zepp heading out that way, and yourself and Christar heading out this way. You know, love it.
I honestly, it's been great. Like I feel like people were starting to do that more so around that time, and I was kind of scared that it would stop, because Spencer was telling me that for whatever reason, flights between like either end of Canada had become cheaper, and he wasn't sure how long it was going to last. So he was trying to get people in as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, is this going to last for a few months and that'll be it? But it's still going on. So I'm like, damn, I hope this is just going to continue, because it's so awesome that we're able to go back and forth and match with other people we wouldn't have been able to match up with before. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely cool to see you make the trip out there, and a few other IWS alums as well make the trip as well. So you got the lay of the land now. It sounds like you'd be open to coming back. Outside of maybe Zoe, was there anybody else there that you had your eye on, that you know what, really good match here in LPW with whoever maybe?
I mean, yeah, I've even seen Taryn, which, I mean, it would be cool to match up with her too. And I mean, obviously Michael Richard Blay, like I've heard so much about him. I've seen how he works too. And it's just like, to be able to have a match with him would be great. It would be tough as a heel, and he's like heelish too. So like, I don't know how it would work in that context specifically. But you know, him being one of the guys who trains Zoe too, it's like, you're going after like the grandmaster, you know what I mean? So just to be able to learn from him in that sense, to wrestle, would be great as well.
Why can't two heels just heel it up and have a heelish match together? Why do we have to worry about the face and heel dynamic? Just go for it. You just do your thing. Out-heel one another.
Yeah, actually, I've seen a few of those on the independents, and like I was always wondering how that would work specifically, because I've seen it where it's just, they're not really playing up the heel trope, and it's just a regular match without any character work, which is a bit weird. But I've seen it work on the independents before, where it's like you essentially out heel each other, right? Yeah. Which is actually, it can be pretty funny to watch those types of matches. It's just difficult, maybe in the context of like more of a work rate match. How would you put that in without it being too comedic and like taking that away? So it could get a bit complicated in that sense, but you could definitely do it. Like I've seen it, and it's pretty funny to watch when it's done well.
Well, would you rather work face or heel then? Because we can convince MRV to go face if you prefer heel. That's what we do.
Oh, I mean, honestly,
a hard sell, but we could try.
Jeez, I don't know. I'm so used. I think I was more of a natural face, but I always got booked as a heel that I just don't even feel comfortable working face anymore. Like IWS is one of the only places where I'm a face. And it's like once every few months. So I'm like, what's my shine again? What's my comeback? Like, it's like some of the same stuff I do as a heel, but I'm like, where did I put that again? Like, I actually have no idea. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe.
All right, MRB, you got to go face, my man. We'll make that happen.
I don't know.
I'll make some calls.
The way you get him going, I think he's permanently a heel, so we might have to switch that up. You were over in England last year.
Yeah.
How was that as a whole for you? I mean, it had to have been an incredible experience. And I mean, when it was all said and done, I think you ended up leaving there like on cloud 9, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah. It was honestly amazing. I lucked out so much. And I've been like so lucky for a lot of the opportunities that I've been given so far in wrestling. And that was very much one of them. So initially when I went there, I was actually pretty scared because I had reached out, like I cold called probably 30 or 40 different promotions, hoping to get like some bookings. And because I'm like, I'm doing pretty well over here. If I just show them my matches, like, maybe someone will book me, right? But I think wrestling is very insular and it works very much by word of mouth because the promoters receive so many applications, which I found out later by talking to someone who was over there. And I was like, wow, okay, it's a bit overwhelming. So I was actually hesitant about going because I only got a couple of maybes, including Eve, who I ended up working for. And I'm like, man, is it worth like spending all this money and going there with like no guaranteed bookings? And I'm like, well, at the worst, I kind of chanced it when it came to Mania weekend as well. And it turned out really great. I'm going to like chance it and just hope for the best and just try to manifest it. And if it doesn't work out, man, like it's fine. Like I'm still going to the schools there. I wanted to go to Rev Pro school and get trained by Michael Oku. I'll go to like Ireland too and just go to like OTT school and just like gain some knowledge, man, and make some connections that way and just like learn from top talent over there. So shit, like I'm not really losing either way, right? Yeah. So I went there and then I messaged Eve again, just being like, hey, I'm in London anyway. Like I could just come by and help you guys out with whatever, if you're good with that. And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, come on by. Like we may have an opening for you, but no guarantees. And they ended up like having an opening, which is awesome. But so I ended up facing Chantal Jordan, who was really just super sweet, super easy to work with. Like we had such a good time together. With Sapphire Reed, who was managing her too, also just super awesome to work with her. But what was pretty crazy is that like the person who inspired me to go there was Will Ospreay, and for some reason he just like walked in like while I was there. So
he's doing some work with them now. That's got to be.
He is. So like I lucked out like quite a bit because he had started producing for Eve, which I mean, it was an all women show. So like, why is Will Ospreay there? Like, it made no sense. But he started producing for them like literally 2 months before I went there. So I really lucked out. Like I came there just as he started like producing and stuff like that. But I had no idea, right? And in that context, it's an all women show. I'm not thinking Will Ospreay is going to be there. So I'm just sitting around. I wasn't even sure if I had a match by that point. And he just like walked in through the doors and I was like, what the fuck? It was crazy, dude.
You're like, hello, sir.
Yeah, straight up. And like he went up to like go shake my hand. He's like, oh, hi, I'm Will. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. But hey.
It would have been weird if you weren't Will Ospreay.
Yeah, at that point, just like a really like intense doppelganger, someone who looks like him to a T.
He's like, "What's up? My name is Steve." You're like, "Wait, what?"
Imagine.
That is not what I had in mind. That's awesome. How hands on was he during your time there? Was he involved with like? Because I know that the reports kind of came out that he's been working with him for a few months. I wonder how like much involvement he had while you were there.
Yeah, so he pretty much I would say he like lightly produces all of the matches. but the thing is that like he's so great in the sense that he was openly encouraging people to like come by and check with him for like ideas and stuff like that so he could help guide us, which we wanted to do. But like whenever we went up to him, he was always like busy, obviously, because like you're obviously gonna ask Will Ospreay for advice, right? So anytime we were like looking for him, he was always busy, and we were like second or something. So like we didn't have time to like pick his brain at that point. Even though he was available, which sucked because I would have loved to have his input. But after the match, I went to go talk to him anyway, just to ask for his critiques because he was watching. So I'm like, I can at least take that and like integrate whatever sort of knowledge into, you know, whatever I do in the future. And I always kind of end up being a face in like the worst situations in the sense that they're usually the bigger platforms. So like IWS and Ring of Honor, I was a face. And at Eve, I was a face too. Like oftentimes when I do international bookings, I'm usually a face, except for like at Beyond and Wrestling Open, which sucks because like I'm not usually a face. So I'm like, fuck, this is like the worst in that sense. Like this is not something I have practice in. But yeah, you know, I just asked him for critiques and advice, and he didn't have any, which was crazy. He just said there was like the ending manager spot, like we could have built to it differently, which I agree. The pacing and how it came to be was a bit strange. But other than that, he said he really liked my fire. I was like, oh, holy shit, that's awesome. It was like, especially there was a lot of pressure too, because the promoter told him that my trainer was Speedball. So then he turned to me and he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck me. This is great. As if there wasn't pressure already.
You had quite the year, like 2024. Like, what a year it was with the, you know, wrestling in England, the shots on Ring of Honor, even, you know, dipping down to Beyond Wrestling Open. Like, you look back at it, and I mean, you had to have been happy with everything you accomplished. Like, how were you feeling coming out of it? And if not, what would you have liked to change? What would you have liked to have changed?
I mean, man, I was like really happy with that year. Like I think for myself, I'm someone who's like always constantly trying to like push myself, but like sometimes to the detriment of like not my confidence, but it's just like I'm always striving for more, and I need to find like a balance where I'm just like good with what I'm doing. And it's kind of hard too, because like last year was pretty awesome in retrospect when I had time to reflect and I had some time off and I wrote down what I was doing. I was like, yo, I actually fucking did like a lot. And I didn't realize it because I was just going the whole time. It was like, I do a booking. I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. Now next week I have this, and I got to work in between and whatever else, right? Like I do it week by week. That it wasn't like, it was registering what I was doing, but like not really. And it wasn't until again, like I kind of wrote like a post, like a year-end recap, and I started writing the stuff that I'd done, and I was like, whoa, shit, that this year was crazy. Like, what the fuck? I can't believe I did all of that. So yeah, it really just hit me more like in retrospect. I can't like I can't even be mad. Like it was just so great on so many different levels. Like I had so many great opportunities, like so many of the bigger feds around here and some of the bigger names. Like geez, it's like it's hard to even believe it sometimes. It almost feels like it's not even like my reality in a weird way. And yeah, dude, I'm just so grateful and so happy for the experiences that I had. And I think something I struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of other wrestlers do, is like finding a way to top it, I remember my first year, I had a pretty good year too. That was actually the year that I did Ring of Honor, because it was at the very end of 2023. But I also won like the IWS Women's Championship, which when I started wrestling, that was like my end goal, right? Like I was like, yeah, I want to win like the IWS Women's Championship. Like that's going to be like the goal for my career. And I won it in my 30th match, right? And then I was like, oh, well, shit, what do I do now? So, but that coupled with like other promotions and people I faced in that year, I already thought, I'm like, man, I had a pretty good first year. I can't imagine how I'm going to top it my second year, right? I'm like, I'll try, but like how? And then my second year was just like insane. So now I'm kind of going into the third year with the same mindset where I'm like, yo, the second year was pretty awesome. Don't know how I'm going to top it, but like I don't want to like put that pressure on myself because success and everything it's not always linear, so if I do top it, great, but it's not always going to be up all the time, and I have to be cognizant of that. But yeah, dude, I mean, I've no complaints. It's just I'm so thankful I had all those opportunities for real.
Do you have any goals in 2025? We're in February. So you said you had a really killer year last year. Do you have any short-term, maybe long-term goals for this year specific? Like outside, not trying to top yourself like you said, just things that you want to knock off that list.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to take this year to build more on what I had done last year. So although I obviously wrestled in Canada, last year, primarily Quebec and Ontario, and a bit obviously in Alberta as well, and Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. But like, I also spent some time in the States, like a little bit. It was just Mania week, really, and I had some bookings there. But I also spent the 2 weeks that I was in Europe. So I essentially wanted to use this year to pretty much grow from that foundation that I had laid out in both places, notably, the US and Europe specifically. Because I had pretty much made contacts with some people in Europe for some of the bigger feds there. So I don't want to say, oh, it's going to work out and whatever, because you never know in wrestling, but it's like, I'd like to go back there, and it seemed promising, to get into some of those bigger places. So I would like to do that, to be able to say that I have. Also because, man, like the girls like that are there, especially the UK scene, are killer, man. Like they are really, really talented. And I'd love to spend, a few months there just to be able to mix it up with them, because they seem like really high level talent. And I just want to wrestle them to, again, just be led by them or learn different forms of wrestling, but just learn through them, right? By wrestling them. Like that's like a really high priority for me in general. It's just always progressing. So I'd love to do that. And the US as well. Like I love Masha. I respected Masha so much even before I wrestled her. And then when I wrestled her, man, my respect and admiration for her just went up like so much more. Every time I meet her, she's just so nice, and she's such a great wrestler. She has another person who has a great mind for wrestling, and she has such a great intensity that I try to emulate. So yeah, I just wanted to go and get trained by her. Which is what I'm going to be doing next week. I'm going to go pretty much go to New York to get trained by her for a few months. And yeah, dude, I'm like nervous and scared. It's just, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go down there and just kind of like branch out a bit more there, like wrestle more for Beyond and Wrestling Open. Something that I would love, that might be a bit out of reach, but I would love to eventually, like, at some point this year, wrestle for GCW if I could. But I know it's like a bit far-fetched, because that is like top tier, like there are obviously a lot of things that I'm doing that are top tier as well, but like GCW is, they have their main roster already. It's kind of hard to crack into that. Yeah. But yeah,
I love the idea of, going over to Europe. You're going to set some time, a couple months, go over there and see what you can do, dipping down to the States to train. Like you're taking the initiative and you're putting yourself out there, which, there are wrestlers out there who, they want to do stuff, but they aren't willing to make those sacrifices and do that a little bit extra. And I think that's something very commendable, because you look at somebody like Von Vertigo, who went over to Europe and really honed his craft over there, and now is just reaping the benefits back here in North America. So I think that's a huge, huge positive and a big step in the right direction.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Vaughn's great. He seems like such a great dude. The times that I've met him, he's been super sweet, humble, nice guy. And yeah, dude, it's so good. It's so good to see that he's, as you're saying, reaping the benefits of the seeds that he laid out like a while ago, and he deserves it, because he's super talented, super sweet dude. And it's happy, like I'm happy to see that working out for him, especially now he's going to the States, and that's kind of coming back to him as well, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you have to do that. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing it like maybe more than you need to, but like I just really want to do it as much as I can and really just try to push myself as much as possible and not stagnate. I think that's one of my biggest fears, is just being too comfortable, and just too okay with what I'm doing. Like, I kind of want to be uncomfortable. I want to push myself. I want to get better always. So I'm trying to put myself in those positions as much as possible, even though it scares the shit out of me, if I'm being honest with you. This whole prospect to me is terrifying, but I know that's why I need to do it, because
that
it's
means you're doing something right. If you're nervous about it, it means that it's a good thing. Like, it's something that you're just not like, oh, I got this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna crush it. You got to have that little bit of like humbleness to it. I think, in my opinion, that's how I operate. When I do all the stuff I do, I'm always so nervous. But I'm like, it's because you're doing something that you're not comfortable with, and you're taking that next step to get into the mix and do something. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to tell myself. So, I mean, thank you for that reinforcement, because it helps placate me.
I know we talked about it pre-show, but the Rumble weekends and stuff like that, like, that's outside of my comfort zone for sure. But it's like, you got to go for it. You got to try it. And like, I think I'm better off for it, but I definitely was nervous the whole time.
For sure. But now you're glad. I mean, I'm sure in retrospect, you're just super happy you did it, and it's such a great stepping stone.
For sure. So that's what I think. So go out there, people. Do the thing that you're uncomfortable doing. It might reap some really cool benefits. That's my motto for the day, my BSA.
Yeah.
Speaking of Vaughn, you guys wrestled a match together. It was a 4-way with Mystery Wrestling. What was the vibe like being a part of those mystery shows? They seem like a lot of fun. I mean, they stream up, but like watching and just seeing it like from our eyes, it just seems like a blast.
It is, honestly. Like, I think it's one of those shows, because I watch it when I'm not on, not always, but like, I'll usually try to catch it if I don't have another booking or whatever. And I have so much fun watching them. And I think it's something I have more fun watching than performing on, because usually when I'm performing, it's something that's pretty high stakes. So I'm usually just fucking nervous and I'm not like enjoying myself. I'm like, yo, I'm so scared. So the first time was just, I just got on by chance because I was riding up with Christara, and Christara, we were like, the person we were driving with, like, we were going to end up being late. So then, just put Christara and I'm like, oh my God, this is a big platform. This is scary. Right. And then the match after that was with Thunder Rosa. And I'm like, yo, this is fucking crazy. I can't believe this is happening. I'm scared. And then the match after that was like Vaughn Vertigo and Mark Wheeler and Dexter. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in a match with these people. So like, every time I'm just fucking scared, honestly. So it's like, it's great. I'm so happy that like Uno has trusted me and keeps inviting me back. And he's been great. And I love that whole like Ontario scene and that crew. And I love, just being there with like C4 and Acclaim and Mystery. They're all like part of the same area. And I love just being backstage and on those shows. They're like, Ottawa's like my favorite. It's like my home away from home, honestly. So I love being there. I love the ambiance. And I love watching it because it's hilarious and the project is great. And usually afterwards, I'm happy with the match. But it's like before, I'm usually pretty scared. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned C4. They got a show coming up in March. It's an all-women show. I think it's the first time they've done this.
It is. Yes, but it is.
I saw you're on the poster, so you're going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that they're doing it. I mean, I think we need, with, Femme Fatale kind of piecing out, and they're not running anymore, like having more of these shows just to showcase the incredible talent that Canada has to offer up here.
Yeah, it's so great. I'm so like happy, and I feel so lucky that I can be a part of C4. And anytime I get to work C4, like I'm just thrilled. It's one of my favorite places to work. The crowd is great. The backstage is great. Like the people who run it are great. Like I just love C4, honestly. So I'm happy to be a part of it, like in general, but also the fact that they're having an all-women show is just so awesome. Because man, like, there's a lot of really great women wrestlers that are coming out, like, and like within our area too, but just in general, like there is that bar that keeps getting raised. And I think people are starting to recognize that. So it's really awesome that we're being given a platform to be able to do that and to be able to showcase what we can do. Like we have so much talent here, and I'm just so happy that everyone can get to see like what they can do. So that's going to be really awesome. I'm so happy that C4 is taking the initiative to give us that platform too. And I feel like people are going to be pretty surprised at some of the talent that's going to be on the show that maybe they're not too familiar with, that aren't always on C4 shows as regulars. I think they're going to be really surprised by some of the talent that they see, because like, man, we have some really like strong women here in terms of talent. So yeah, it's just really awesome, and it's like super cool that like I'm on the poster. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. Like their first ever show. I'm like, what? Because like that, there were also like part of like my main goals when I first started off was I want the IWS title, and I'm like, it'd be cool if I could wrestle for C4, and if I could like, branch out there, and now to like be on the poster for like, this landmark show that they're having for women. I'm like, well, that's just fucking crazy, So yeah, no, it's just so great, and I feel like so honored and grateful that I can be a part of it, really.
I know recently you started up a YouTube channel.
I did, yeah.
Because you've done interviews and stuff before, correct? Like
yes.
You've done this. So like, what can we come to expect on the channel? And like, I mean, you've only started doing it, but what are your kind of plans going forward with it?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. So like, I'm still figuring it out. But it's just, I just figured, I'm like, man, the main reason I started a YouTube channel was because I find a lot of my better matches are like behind paywalls. So it could be like IWTV or whatever. And there's some decent matches that I have that are floating around on YouTube, but a lot of them are like when I first started. And I'm like, bruh, I don't want people looking me up and being like, oh, this is Katrina Creed. I'm like, yeah, that was like my 20th match, dude. Like, come on. Yeah. So the main reason I came up with a YouTube channel is to just post matches or like highlights of some of my more recent stuff. So hopefully that floats around and people be like, oh, okay, this is Katrina Creed, not that. So that was like the main reason. I was tired of always seeing that. I'm like, dude, like what? No. So that was the main reason. But then the main, like that was kind of the main reason that was floating around in my mind. But the main thing that kicked it off was I did an interview with this guy named Anthony Blackwell Jr. It's like the ABJ podcast out in the States. And as we were like winding down, like after the interview, we were talking a bit more, and he had brought up like the idea of vlogs, right? And he's like, yeah, I feel like people are really into that type of content. And for me personally, I love watching that stuff too. I find it really interesting. It's like, yeah, you should do that. Even if you don't do the vlogs, it's cool to just have like a diary or a video diary of stuff that you're doing that you can just like look back on later, even if you don't publish it. And I'm like, that's a really good idea, especially just, you're kind of always stuck in the hustle and bustle of stuff. You don't really take the time to process and recognize what you're doing. But I'm like, man, I may as well try. I'm literally going to the States in a bit, and that's going to be a really awesome adventure. Like, why not document that? So, that, and then interviews, I don't know where that came from. I was like, hey, I've done it before, and here's some funny questions I can ask my friends. So I guess I'm going to do it. So I think I'm going to call it the most unprofessional interview in professional wrestling, because it's just going to be, and in brackets, it'll be except for when I got to be professional, because in case it takes off, which I don't know if it will, but for now, it's going to be 5 or 10 really random questions, some that are like more serious, some that are funny, that are mostly unrelated to wrestling, but might partly be. And I'm just going to like ask my friends in wrestling about it. So we're just going to be shooting the shit and laughing and joking around. And it's going to be pretty ridiculous. But if ever it takes off and I got to be more serious, well, that's where it comes in brackets, except for when I got to be professional, because then I can't do that with like someone I don't know. So
you got to cover it there,
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Professional the whole time. That's my whole motto. That's how I've operated this whole time. Of course.
There you go. We love it.
When you mentioned that there's going to be brackets for the most unprofessional podcast, I thought you were going to say except for Blair and Pluggo.
Yeah,
they're the worst.
Yeah, they don't even make the tournament.
IWS has a show coming up. I mean, because we're recording this, it's a few weeks away, but by the time it airs, we're like 6 days away. And I was a little sad because I noticed you weren't on the poster. So
Yeah.
you've joined us. You're going to help us run down the card to wrap up the show, because
I will.
there looks like there's some banger matches on here.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I might be in town. So maybe I'll make an appearance, maybe not, but that's pretty much the reason why I won't be there. I'm going to be in the States most likely. But there is an awesome card that they've put together, and I would be more than happy to help with the rundown.
Okay. I mean, me and Pluggo usually make picks. We won't hold you to that because it might,
Wow, you're such a sweetheart, Blair. I was going to be like, you make picks or the show's over. You make some enemies in the IWS. This thing is done.
Oh, man. No, if I make picks, I'm going to go back there. People are going to kick my ass, dude. I don't know if I should get involved.
That's fair. I know how you feel every month with the Love Pro Wrestling picks that I make.
Yeah, let's start off. I mean, the IWS World Championship.
Yes.
The championship. She is also the IWS Women's Championship. She is defending the IWS World Championship against James Stone. James Stone's a hard hitter. So, I mean, this match is going to be a bit of a doozy.
Oh, yeah. So here's maybe the only match where I'll make a pick, because Christara is my girl. She always will be, my ride or die. And I hate James Stone. I don't. I mean, James Stone is cool.
I love how fast you flip-flop from I don't want to make picks and upset the roster to I hate James Stone. I'm going with Christara. Respect.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's the only match I had in my head where it's like, if I'm going to make a pick, it's that one. And I'm kidding. I don't hate James Stone, but, I love shitting on him. So, but Christara is my girl. So I'm going to have to go with Christara. At the same time, yeah, as you're mentioning, James Stone is obviously a hard hitter. I haven't been on the receiving end of one of his chops, but I have been on the receiving end of Vanessa Craven's chops, and they are often tag teaming together, and her chops are fucking vicious. Like, they are the worst. Hers and Jody Threats are like the fucking worst I've ever experienced in my life. And I've heard that she's on par with James Stone. His might even be a bit worse. So, like, rip Christara, that's going to suck ass. But Christara, even though James Stone is very much a hard hitter, obviously Christara has agility on her side. She's one of the fastest workers, man. She's always going back and forth in the ring. And she's also very creative with her offense. So even if James Stone might have her in any sort of fucking like hold or move or whatever, I don't know, man. Christara is pretty inventive with how she can get out of it. So, and capitalize. So not only do I pick Christara because I hate James Stone, but I just think realistically, I feel like she could win the matchup. So
that's fair. I mean, I'm picking Christara to win.
There you go.
Pluggo, who you got?
That's not fair. No, I'm taking Christara to win as well. I don't want to upset anybody here.
See, because I figure what we'll end up doing is you do such a great job.
Wait, she doesn't have to make picks, but I got to make picks.
Oh, yeah, because I got an idea. Because what we're going to do is you do such a great job when we make our picks of putting our faces next to whoever we picked. So we'll do that. And then the only one that will have Katrina's face is above Christara. So
with the middle finger emoji to James Stone.
Yes.
Love it.
The IWS World Tag Team Championships. It's a ladder match. You have the writing's small, but you got Fresh Air against the Bay City Choir Boys versus Ben Ortons and Nathan Yaryamowicz versus the Sexy Beasts, Sexy Eddie and beautiful Bob. It's Bob Anger, right?
Yes.
Beautiful Bob.
Beautiful Bob Anger. I mean, who knows?
Beautiful Bob Anger. It's a new gimmick.
Get that going.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows?
Those Bob Anger shirts are going to be at the next show.
That edible's kicking in right now. Jeez. The ladder matches are always something special with IWS.
Oh yeah.
It's you look back at the way the TLC matches in WWE how like those came around and everyone was like on another level, and that seems how it is when teams show up for the IWS and they're slotted into these ladder matches.
For sure. I mean, all of them are really great contenders. All of them have their own history. Some of them are a bit newer. Like you look at Nathan and Ben's team. I mean, they just started becoming a unit at the last show more so. So they're kind of like, they're finding their stride, but at the same time, individually, they're obviously very strong competitors. Ortman's been in the world title scene for quite a while. So obviously, he's there for a reason. They're both really good strikers as well. So I feel like they're kind of like working to find their stride and come up with a synergy, but I feel like they could be really good contenders for that reason. At the same time, you look at Fresh Air, these guys are, currently the IWTV tag champs, right? So that speaks for itself. They're one of the best tag teams in Canada for sure. Possibly in North America, I'd even argue at this point. Like, they are next level. They've been at some of the top promotions within our area, like within Canada and the States, like beyond, obviously IWS, C4, and all of that for a reason. So I think they're really strong competitors for this and contenders to get the tag titles. You look at the Bay City Choir Boys, however, they've had the title for quite a while now. They've been able to defend it for quite a bit. I mean, I think it's been almost a year, if I'm not mistaken, that they've had the titles. So they've been able to hold it for quite a while and fend off a lot of different people. So they have a lot of strong contention for that too. And then obviously you look at beautiful Bob Anger. We're calling out beautiful Bob Anger and Sexy Eddie. Although, yeah, okay, we can, it's very easy to brush them off as like a comedic duo. You look at Sexy Eddie, for example, and even Bob, they've both been tag teams in C4 as well for some of the top promotions in our area, including IWS currently. But Sexy Eddie in particular, he's just a vet in general, but also an IWS vet. So this guy knows the ins and outs of all the violence and havoc that could come in a typical ladder match. So I don't know. They're a pretty good team as well when it comes to contending for that title.
I feel teams with Sexy Eddie, like he should go under the moniker Beautiful Bob Anger. Like it gels that team even more. So like I'm just trying to help him get paid. I'm trying to help him.
You're talking yourself into it. I love it.
I am like
against Ben Ortman's though. I can't ever pick against my guy Ben. So
I'm picking the Bay City Choir Boys to hold on to those titles because you were right. Currently, as of February 17th, they're 353 days as champion. So by the time the show comes, it's going to be a full year. So
yeah, quite a while to hang on to those.
Good job, dude.
Yeah. Casanova Productions versus Flying Frank Milano and Alex Mays. Alex Mays, he's very familiar with the tag team wrestling, but how often has he teamed with Flying Frank Milano?
Can I ask you a real quick question? Alex Mays, are those abs real?
They are, dude.
Like he is chiseled out of stone, and I'm like, there's no way that's real.
Oh no, it is, and he very much is, and I'll tell you why I know. Not only do I train with him, but man, it's like it doesn't. I think I have a pretty high like pain tolerance, and usually if I get like hit by something, I'm usually okay. But man, he has such little body fat on his body, man. Anytime there's any sort of like mishap in training or whatever, where I get like a stray elbow or like something from him, it's fucking painful because that guy is just like, he's just chiseled, dude. Like there's no body fat on that guy. It's insane. It's nuts. So not edited.
He posted like a gym pic the other day and just looked jacked up. Like,
yeah. He's the real deal, man.
I just put my piece of pizza back in the box.
Right. He's just shaving me from afar.
I ate another slice just because I was so sad. I was just like, it's too late. What's one more slice?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, no, he's something else, man, honestly. But yeah, looking at them. So obviously Casanova Productions, they have the experience level. They've been more of a unit for longer, right? So they've been tag teaming and all that, usually as trios, but in this sense, more so as a tag team. So they have that sort of history together that I feel like gives them a bit more of an advantage. At the same time, though, Flying Frank Milano and Maze as well. I mean, they're very much the underdog in certain situations, but I feel like that's the time when they shine the most. So even though they might not necessarily have that same synergy, and even though there has been some sort of conflict that's been arising, I feel like if they decide to work together and put their differences aside, they can work it out and they can get the win. I'm just worried that, I don't know, maybe something's going to come up between Maze and Milano. I mean, that I can't comment on. So if they can keep it together, I feel like they can win it, but we'll have to see.
One of the matches, or I guess we should make our picks for this one. Pluggo, who you got?
Casanova Productions.
Yeah, I'll take them too.
Oh, interesting.
It's a team that's very new with Maze and Milano, and it's just, I don't know.
There's the drama.
Yeah. Can they coexist?
Yeah.
One of the matches I'm most excited for, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, Leah Sparks versus Drea Mitchell.
Yes.
I think Drea has absolutely been crushing it, and
yes.
I'm very hyped for this. I think that this is going to be her coming out party.
Dude, honestly, so when I was talking about that C4 show and I was talking about some of the stronger women talent that we have here, I very much had those two in my mind. They have been semi-regulars at C4, but it's just for people who watch C4, they're not like full-on regulars, so they might be surprised by how good they are. But they are super talented. Drea, I mean, she actually won Rookie of the Year in Quebec wrestling for the past year that she had. And I think she's the only woman other than, I think her name is, it might have been Desiree. I'm not exactly sure, but I think she might only be the second woman to have done that in the history of Quebec wrestling so far. So, I mean, that in itself speaks by quite a bit. They've both, been involved in some of the bigger promotions around here, including IWS, C4, Mystery Wrestling, Acclaim as well. And that's hard to do within your first year or two of wrestling. So I think that just speaks to their talent individually. Drea has such a great presence about her too, which a lot of people are starting to notice too, but she has such a great presence. She has such a great moveset. She picks things up really quickly, and so she obviously has that powerhouse persona, right, when you look at her moveset. But at the same time, Leah Sparks is also super talented, really agile. She has that quickness to her that I feel like maybe can help her overcome Drea. But I feel like, honestly, it'll be a really good match that people might not be expecting to be as good as it will be.
Now, I mean, I love Drea, but I do think Leah's going to pick up the victory in this one. It's just a feeling I got. So, I mean,
I admittedly don't know a ton about Drea, so I'm going to have to do my homework, but I'm going to take the upset. I'm going to be different, Blair. Drea here, Rookie of the Year, and I'm going to do my research leading up to this IWS show.
Well, we got a scramble match. Danny Leo versus Carl Jepsen versus Charlie Tiger versus Benny P versus Dustin Waller versus, I'm going to mess up that name, but I think it's Maredes.
Oh, Maredes, yeah.
Yeah, I was close.
Yeah, close. Man, that is going to be intense. There's just so many different personalities and so many different types of wrestling in there, like in terms of individual styles. I mean, you look at someone like Jepsen, who's obviously a bigger dude, can be a powerhouse, but can also be agile too, surprisingly for his size. But then you look at someone like Dustin Waller, who's all about the agility, right? And how they'll play off each other. But then you have all these individual units that are there too, that can just make the situation so much more complex. I mean, you look at Danny Leo, who's obviously started to pick up more in her stride as well. But I mean, I have my issue with her. Obviously, so she could be a bit conniving. So I don't know if she's gonna pretty much tune into any of that to try to pick up the win. Maredes is someone who was with the IWS for a while, like a few years ago, and has recently made a comeback. But as his moniker states, the maniacal Maredes, this guy's not entirely all there. So who knows what he's gonna pull out to pretty much try to get the win. And you look at Benny P as well. I mean, Benny P is he's quite a character, right? I feel like maybe, him and Danny being evil and conniving, maybe they can kind of mesh together to try to help each other out in this. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. Charlie Tiger too is obviously kind of on the same level in terms of like how I guess insane he is, like Moratus. They both kind of have that like wild sort of energy to them. So I don't know, man. It's going to be pretty crazy. I don't even know which direction this match could go in.
Look, I know that you guys are rivals. I'm going to take Danny to win this.
Wow.
Oh wow! Right in front of my face too.
Jeez,
Like I'm right here.
It's because you bullied me a few months ago. So
well, I was evil then. I had to. She's evil now. I'm good now. Like, okay. Anyway, whatever.
Wow, Blair.
I know.
Yeah, that just
he's awesome. He's one of my favorites.
Broke my heart.
So good. So, way to go, Blair. I'm going to end the thing on a downer here.
Who are you picking?
I'm taking Carl Jensen.
Okay.
He's awesome.
We got, I think, 3 more left. TDT versus FTM and Benjamin Tull.
Wow, yeah. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I love TDT.
Oh, yeah. They're great. I mean, all those wrestlers are just super awesome. They've all been, they're just all landmarks of Quebec wrestling and have been around for a while. They're all, I think, close to 15, 20-year vets, like each person respectively. I feel like, I mean, I know we're not supposed to take picks, but I feel like I have to go with TDT, even though everyone on their own, like individually, are amazing competitors. I mean, TDT is TDT. They are just a unit. They work best as a tag team. They're one of the few people, even though they're both individually really great workers, they're one of the few people where like together they just work better together. So I just feel like they'll have that advantage. But that match is going to be crazy for sure.
We're allowed to make picks. Blair is not anymore because he keeps picking your arch rivals and your nemesis.
Yeah, wow. Rude.
Well, I was going to pick TDT for this one.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was.
Of course you were.
Stop it.
Stop. Just causing problems.
Who you got, Pluggo? TDT?
I'll take Benjamin Tull because you guys are TDT. I'll go different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We can't all pick the same person, and that's not good for radio or TV or whatever streaming platform you watch this very podcast on.
The IWS Canadian Championship. Matt Viviani defending that title against Dante.
Excuse you? The Prime Minister, Matt Viviani.
The Prime Minister.
I'm not even from Canada, and I show respect to our Prime Minister, Matt Viviani.
Yeah, Blair. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I am. Look, I'll be honest. Last year, I had the pleasure of talking to Dante Dubois on the Grainmaker podcast. I love Dante Dubois. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I'm very disappointed he does not have the gold around his waist. I thought he was going to get it at the end of last year, came up short. So I am cheering for him at this show.
I've had the pleasure of talking to our Prime Minister, Matt Viviani, on more than one occasion on my other podcast, too, and I'm happy he has the gold. Settle the score here, Katrina.
Well, look, I mean, Dante Dubois, they're both actually, Matt Viviani and Dante Dubois are both products of the IWS dojo. Obviously, Matt Viviani came out a bit earlier, a few years ago, whereas Dante is more of a newcomer on the scene. But Dante, even though he doesn't have as much experience, he's been putting in the work and putting in the reps at different events all around here. And I mean, you've seen his progression throughout the year, how much better he's been getting more and more. Great person to be around, great worker. As you mentioned, it's a shame that he doesn't have gold just yet. And I think he's been through a lot of like trial and tribulations when it comes to getting to this point in IWS for this opportunity. At the last show, I mean, he was just cut open, right? He's bleeding all over the place. We actually still have the stains. We actually still have the blood stains for a while, Dante Dubois and Masha. We just weren't sure like who the bloodstains belong to for a while, and we put peroxide on it since, but they're still like the shriveled up like spots. You know, so this guy has literally paid his dues in blood, right, to get this opportunity. And although he's come up short because of a lot of underhanded techniques that, you know, Matt Viviani has done, I feel like it's his time to shine. Like, I feel it in my bones. I feel like Dante's gonna win this one. I feel like he's put in the work, so I hope he does. But I can't say. They're both strong competitors in their own right.
I'm the only one that respects the prime minister of your country. Wow.
I mean, have you seen the economy? Can you blame us? Look.
Have you seen our? Yeah, no. Seen our economy?
Oh, what will no doubt be the main event: a fans bring the weapons match. Green Phantom and PCP Manny versus Effie and Broski Jimmy. If you are in attendance, what weapon are you bringing in, hoping that it's going to get you style buck wild in this match?
Oh man, I can't even answer that because I used to love hardcore matches when I wasn't a wrestler, and now that I'm a wrestler, and worse, now that I know the people who are in that match, it's hard for me to even stomach those matches, like, honestly. So I wouldn't bring anything because it pains me to see the bumps that they take, and knowing
that's what I know them.
Oh lordy! I mean, yeah, just whack them around.
It just takes that.
You know, I can hop on that. I can hop on that one.
Think about throwing at somebody. Sorry, he's gonna hate that. Oh.
We got to see how many shows we can throw that up in a row.
I love it. I can hop on that one though. Actually, yeah, maybe I'd bring Zach, but
I love these matches because it does get the fans involved with like coming up with some crazy idea that's not like absolutely ludicrous to use, but like still fun and can be enjoyed.
What is the craziest thing or funnest thing you've seen a fan bring to a
I've seen I like, it was like a cactus made of like the material of fluorescent light tubes, but there were like thumbtacks on it. But the craziest, I don't know if that was like used or I don't recall, but one of the worst bumps that I've seen was, I'm not even sure like what the whole thing was, but essentially there were just like wooden mini stakes like sticking out from some sort of device. And dude, like, I remember Phantom taking like a suplex or something on it, and he landed like on his tailbone and like his glutes. And I remember I was like on the balcony watching, and I remember him getting up and there was just that shit sticking out of his glute and his lower back. And I was like, yo, that is so fucked up. Like, oh dude, it's just no. Imagine, even though he wasn't bleeding, like it was fucked.
Imagine being a fan who brought something that didn't get used. Then you got to take it home, carry it back.
Right, yeah. I don't know what they do. Like, do they keep it or do they like throw it out after? I don't know. Maybe for another time. But it's very fucky. Yeah, very fucky.
I mean, I do think we're going to see Green Phantom and PCP Manny as winners in this. So that's my pick. They're going to stand tall.
That sounds about right. That sounds good. With some skewers in their glutes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some skewered up glutes, but they're going to get the dub.
Katrina, this has been an absolute blast. I mean, I think I speak for both of us when I say we love having you on the show.
Yes.
Oh, I love being on the show, honestly. Thanks so much for having me. I have a blast every time I'm here.
Obviously a chance just to like plug anything you got coming up from March onwards, or social media, all that fun stuff. I mean, here you go.
Yeah. So again, I will be in the States. So very likely Wrestling Open, Beyond Wrestling. I'm gonna get trained by Maja, which I still can't believe. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, otherwise in March, for some of the dates that I have in Canada more so, I will be coming back for Acclaim, which will be in Ottawa, the C4 show, as we mentioned as well. And other than that, I actually have the two other bookings that I have that I'm slated for are actually going to be in Philly. So one's going to be for SHP, Sean Henderson Presents, which I've worked for before, and super happy that they're having me back. And as well as a new promotion that I've never worked for, it's a promotion called High Tension Wrestling. And It's a no ring show, which, IWS has done a few of those and I have some experience. So I'm going down to the States to rep the home bed. So that'll be really fun. And they know, like, a lot of them know of IWS too, so I got to go there and make a good impression.
Yeah.
Like, i.e., I got to be violent as fuck. So, gonna do that. But yeah, socials. Otherwise, I mean, I got Twitter, so Katrina Creed as it's spelled over there. As well on YouTube, I got a YouTube channel now, so Katrina Creed spelled the same way. I also came up with a Facebook page like a few weeks ago. Like, I'm going all over the place on the socials. So Katrina Creed spelled the same way, and then of course Insta, not spelled the same way because someone apparently is named Katrina Creed out there. On Insta, it's cats.creed. So
social media handle on a pole match. Let's book that.
Yeah, legit. I will wrestle that match. Like, honestly, I want Katrina Creed for Insta, man. I don't know what's going on, but I will do that match. Someone book it.
Well, for myself, you can find me up all social media, Graymaker Wrestling Podcast. Find me every weekend with this gem doing this show right here on this channel. My dude, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me at Pluggo on all these social media platforms, different variations, but generally Pluggo_B2B or Loves Wrestling. Somebody stole Pluggo on Twitter, so it's Pluggo_ there. But you can also find me every Thursday night, 8 p.m. with JPJ for Between Two Beers, every weekend with Blair, and every weekend on Love Wrestling's website, on Love Wrestling CA. I drop my top 5 of the week. So I do a little writing there. So there you go.
Perfect.
That's about it. As far as I know, considering this is in the future.
Yes. Maybe there's going to be something new. So
maybe.
There is. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for so much more here on the Love Wrestling YouTube channel, for us here on For Exposure, for Katrina Creed too. Thank you so much for joining us. Peace in the streets. There we go.